Heyo, what is up everyone? It is the Alpha J of the Alpha J Show, and welcome to How I'd Write, a segment in which I, the Alpha J, take an episode, or more specifically an episode's plot, and reimagine it through my eyes to make it work out better. Please note that this is an opinion, and that I don't take many factors into account, such as certain demographics and length or whatnot. This is merely me stating a concept, not a script or a play-by-play explanation, but simply how I would write an episode. So before we begin, I do want to shout out these people here, the comments on the screen. And just for future reference, I'm not only going to clip positive feedback, but if you have constructive criticism that I feel really does help out my channel, I will put that on my videos as well. So it's not an echo chamber. Also, I want to take the time to shout out this piece of fan art here. The link to that will be in the description below. Give it likes, give it retweets, follow him. He's a really good guy. And if you have any fan art, feel free to send it to my Twitter at the Alpha J Show. So this would be the part where I basically give my standard intro, but let's just get into it. This was the first episode of season 9, and I know a lot of people bash on season 10, myself included. It wasn't like the quality of the series just flip-flopped once Chloe came into the picture. No, season 9 had its own problems, some minor and some even deal-breaking. Like starting out Fairy Odd Pet with Timmy wanting a pet the same way that Fairy Odd Baby started out with Cosmo and Wanda wanting a baby. Also add in that certain characters who didn't have pets now for cheap and bad humor. Crocker says fairy, so what's the obvious pet for him? Obviously a pet that has the exact same vocabulary as him, a parrot. They do an E.T. reference for the sake of doing an E.T. reference. The fish take up so much space, I'm surprised they don't bump into each other or orbit each other. And they bring up Timmy's history with pets without the continuity and more field jokes. I'm all for comedy shows being comedic, but if majority of your jokes don't hit home but revolve around the same type of humor, and the cartoons older than you can still be funny, and cartoons newer than you are funny, maybe the writing team should have focused more on the comedy. Timmy says that his parents will totally get him a pet, and if you went to the Butch Hartman school of and then the opposite happens, then you know Timmy is not getting that pet, and he doesn't. So Timmy decides, in his own words, to be deceitful and underhanded right after complaining that his parents don't trust him. Because if you went to the Butch Hartman school for and then the opposite happens, in order to get what you want, you do the opposite and let the magic worry about all the little details. Even Wanda sounds tired when she brings up that Timmy used to have better judgment. You see, Timmy wishes up cats in order to rile up his mother's allergies so that he would then get a dog. Because in Dimsdale, exterminators are as non-existent as a good setup and punchline. So this works because of course it does. Timmy is banned from all of the pet stores on the planet because they all know Timmy. I mean, you didn't know about the secret life of pet stores? That was a reach! So Timmy meets this dog that is so nice and friendly inside this cage. Sparky, the dog, is so nice and playful and eating like a trained pet. What can go wrong? So of course, Timmy gets Sparky because looking for other options is stupid. I mean, if this creator made this masterpiece, then his next creation would be pretty much the same thing. I also want to point out that if this is the cage that is supposed to keep Sparky in, you must have bought the wrong cage. Jorgen tells Timmy that he needs to put flea powder on Sparky every 4 hours, which means Timmy never gets to do anything for a long time again, and if you know Timmy, you know he will forget. They try to show that Sparky is great in the beginning with no foreshadowing of his future behavior besides taking things literally and filling out crosswords. Sparky interacts more with Vicky in a total time of about 20 seconds of screen time, more than the minutes of screen time that Poof had. Sparky buries the house and Timmy wishes it back to the surface. Remember this moment for me. Also, every 5 seconds is a new jingle or sound effect or short song. What, did the music creator get paid by the tens? Sparky pretty much turns into a hyper messy dog when everyone sleeps because Sparky is manipulative, and that was a mouthful. He carpets the floor because Sparky's unfunny.
Sparky destroyed the city! I need you to poof it back to normal!
We can't! Sparky buried our wands!
Sparky buried the house! Can you poof us back to the surface? That's better. Everything's fixed.
Sparky buried our wands!
Everything's fixed.
I see Sparky digged up more than a town. He digged a hole in the plot. Professional writers came together and made a story that relied on the wands being buried but didn't think that the scene right before it that had wands in it mattered. It's a bittersweet miracle that you received another series after this lackluster trite. Also, this is just a pick, but Wanda said here that bad things would happen if the magic fleas bit someone, but the only thing that happened is werewolves. Want to be a little bit more clear with the writing? Oh, and Fairy Oddparents also has this thing where they add more and more action to try to make the story seem more and more interesting. But the problem there is that the action is thrown into the story carelessly and without weight, so I don't care about it. You know a place where there's many problems and people cannot and usually don't care about all of them? The real world. Focus on a few problems and give those problems weight. Also, Sparky's a fairy dog without a wand to make wishes. So basically he is Jake the dog, but annoying and with 1% of the enjoyment. I know I'm bumping it up a bit, but I'm trying to round up here. Timmy's dad in the past tried to make things and failed. In fact, that was a plot in the older Fairy Oddparents episode, you know, super bike, super toilet. But here, he can build a plane, one of the hardest things to just build. I wouldn't be so annoyed at this blatant major confusing character-driven moment if it wasn't just thrown into the story with no natural introduction or previous foreshadowing. In short, Timmy's dad's character is whatever the story wants, and whatever the story wants has been 15 minutes or so of poor story choices. But that's not even the worst part, because the writers only just realized that Timmy doesn't know how to fly. Or they did know, but didn't want to start over. Now sure, someone will point out that in season 6, Fairy Oddparents made an episode called Hurricane, and in that episode, Timmy's dad had a plane. But the issue here is not that Timmy's dad shouldn't be able to make a plane. The issue here is that the characters change with no natural or entertaining transition. By that logic, if Timmy wanted to become, a surfer, instead of transitioning in an episode or a small gag that he surfs now, make it a plot relevant point, then explain right after the plot point is done that Timmy could have never known how to surf in the first place. And if what I hear about Timmy's dad in season 10 is true, then I will not leave this point alone. Fairy dogs cannot die, so Sparky testing out the parachute is short-sighted. Also, can't fairy dogs fly? Timmy doesn't want Sparky. Is Sparky walking on the hill or is he walking in midair? I can't tell. So Sparky uses emotional manipulation. It was effective. It's totally not like you had a being who cannot die use something that is supposed to attempt to prevent those who can't die from dying, but no, the dog cries. I think this is manslaughter. Canine negligence. Idiotic storytelling? Whatever. The point is, all is forgiven. They reuse the news gag because creativity is a foreign trait lost in the ancient mythical land of effort past the upstream river of caring across the bridge of passion and down the ladder of empathy for an audience. So the dam is in Timmy's backyard through the same window that we see all the time, which in other episodes is in the front of the house, but for this episode, it's in the back. I guess, fine. And for reference, see the other much better pet episode. It's going to be on the screen right now. Isn't that ironic though? So guess who's here? Sparky. Also another pick, but when Timmy goes to save Sparky, why is it that he's swimming slower than the water? He's 10 years old. He should be swept faster than the show was when Viacom booted it to Nicktoons. Do I sound rude? Because I'm being honest. Quality entertainment is hard, but if you want to go down the easy route and make subpar work, like this, then in my opinion, you deserve the honest truth. Also, Timmy calls himself the worst pet owner ever because a dam that he wished, but ultimately was out of his control, burst and inconvenienced. Not drowned, but inconvenienced a dog. Also, another pick, but Timmy, what's wrong with your feet there? He wishes everything back to normal, they try a few more jokes, that shadow is laughable, and this is Fairy Odd Pet, a crappy special with a worthless character and a multitude of mistakes story-wise, animation-wise, and concept-wise. I guess it's my job to rewrite it. I mean, we could throw it in the trash. No? Alright, so all personas aside, this is my first special, and I will attempt to write it longer than my episodic rewrites, so bear with me, no pun intended. Have the episode start with a nice overlook of the town. We would have Timmy on his way back from school, on the school bus talking to actually AJ and actually Chester, and not the ripoffs in season 10. Have normal conversation about what they are doing this weekend, either Chester and AJ would mention the date, which doesn't matter for entertainment purposes, so let's just say June 3rd. Timmy would get sidetracked thinking about this date. It seems familiar for some reason, but he can't put his finger on it. He then walked past his parents, which were talking to him, but he would ignore that. Once in his room, his fairies would also greet him, but he sits on the bed thinking, this date, June 3rd. June 3rd. What could that possibly be? Turns out that Timmy does this every year, Wanda points out, and every year Timmy has this long period of getting closer and closer, but when the day is over, he gives up. So this year, Timmy plans to try to remember what June 3rd is. So this time, he wishes to remember what he forgot, but Wanda and Cosmo can't really wish that because it's so vague. Or if you want to go down the joke route, have Timmy's head inflate to the size of Earth to visualize him remembering every single memory he had. Either way, he goes back to square one and decides instead to go back in time each year to try to find out when this June 3rd phenomena started. In this process, he gets to the year it all happened, but a day or so before. So backstory time. Before Timmy could talk, his parents used to live life very different. They were younger and they did things more like teenagers or young adults, such as the reliance on fast food and having messy or poor living areas. In fact, their TV stand just very well might be a few college textbooks. And those fat square televisions? Timmy would be very young enough to not speak in full coherent sentences. Timmy's parents would be talking until a furry creature appears out of the darkness and rubs up against Timmy, who would be crawling around, playing with toys. Timmy would also be seen enjoying the dog's attention, and we would cut to a scene where Timmy is eating, and his parents are worried about bills and work. And Timmy's food falls. He starts to cry, but either his parents ignore him, or it's drowned out from a phone call or something. The dog comes over, and rather than relying on his impulse and eating the food, he picks it up and gives it back to Timmy with a lick on the cheek or something that shows that they're getting along. Then there's a day when the parents are overworked, and it's raining hard with harsh thunder sounds just crashing through Dimsdale. And Timmy, who wakes up in the middle of the night, starts to cry, but the dog comes over and sees Timmy in his crib and decides to bump into the crib door because cartoon. The side of the crib comes down for the dog to hop into the crib and lie next to baby Timmy, making him sleep again. You could also add in a part where his family comes in after hearing the crying and the bump and smile because the dog aided their efforts, or just keep them sleeping if that seems a little too dramatic. Timmy would then remember that he had a dog, and that's the fuzzy memory that he could not remember that he does now. But he doesn't understand exactly why June 3rd. Well, luckily for Timmy, since he only transported a day or two away from June 3rd, his answers are closer than he thinks. Timmy sees his baby self playing in the living room, his parents are in the other room, and the family dog sees a cat outside. And the dog goes ballistic, rushing through the dog door just to chase this cat. You can have this high energy sequence where the dog runs all throughout the backyard to chase the cat before the cat bashes into the fence, causing it to make a small hole that the cat can fit through, but the dog also fits through as well. They run down the street and the dog is never seen again. The worst part? Timmy saw it all through the dog door. He ends up crying much louder than before, and his parents finally are there when he needs comfort, and the last thing he sees is the calendar that says June 3rd with a close-up of his face. Timmy then says he remembers everything. He remembers the trouble of trying to let go. He remembers the intense pain he had to deal with. So going back over the present day, he realizes that this entire time, he never knew that he had a pet, but a pet loved him and gave him attention before he had fairies. He decides he wants a new pet. Wanda asks Timmy if his parents may or may not like that idea. Timmy responds with crossing the bridge when he gets there. So they go around to many pet stores, and this could be a very comedic sequence, and I think it should be because the flashback is very dramatic and it would leave the joke quota very low, where Timmy looks around for not just a good pet, but the one pet that's for him. They would check a few stores around Dimsdale and none of them would help Timmy. Then to add on to this, they would check the pet stores from around the world because magic, teleportation, and you can insert all of the comedy that may come from that. But ultimately, he would be unsatisfied. It's not like the pets are bad, but he's just looking for the one. So he begins to express doubt. and begins his slow walk home. Cosmo would then blurt out, "What about the fairy pet store?" Timmy would say something like, "Oh, what's the point?" And Wanda, being the optimist that she could be at times, tells Timmy that one more shot wouldn't kill him, and he decides to try one last time. Poof would then pull on Cosmo's tie, and Poof talked that his favorite wrestling show is on. And Cosmo tells Wanda that Poof and him are going to watch the wrestling show. That is important for later on. So it's just Wanda and Timmy going around in this magical pet store, no Jorgen, and I would ham up the magic. I wouldn't just make these fantasy animals for the magic effect. Have Timmy go through nearly all of the pets until he reaches one. In this sheet, it is a dog, but not just any dog. This dog looks exactly like Timmy's dog from before, the one that ran away on June 3rd. However, this dog is magic because it's a magic pet store, and they hit it off flawlessly, with the dog being as caring as the dog he had before, and he decides to take it home. And he will name it Sparky. And I don't really like the name Sparky, but you gotta keep it. They decide to take it home, and problem solved, right? Well, they poof home, and Sparky sees Poof looking at wrestling. And if you look far in the background, it mirrors the stare down that the wrestlers are having. Then Poof and Sparky, who never met before, immediately start to attack each other. It does appear to be violent, so Timmy and Wanda separate the both of them, with Timmy wondering, why did they do that? So he goes downstairs to introduce his new dog, but puts his dog aside so that he can introduce him as he walks into the door. So basically, just not immediately. The idea being that he would say Sparky, point to the door, and Sparky would walk in. He tells his parents that he wants to show them a new pet, but they're not really listening to him right now. They're on a tangent of disliking pets. They talk about how they saw on a TV show where pets are just awful to their owners, biting them, making a mess, and most importantly, rude to babies. They also talk about how much money it would be to maintain a pet. They would give very valid reasons to why someone in their condition would not want a pet. So Timmy decides to Alt F4 that idea and go back upstairs where Cosmo and Wanda are holding back Poof, where Wanda decides that she has had enough of this and wishes Sparky to the backyard. So Timmy decides to fix this, and instead of poofing to the backyard with Sparky, he goes downstairs and out the back door. This is important. His parents think that they see something in the backyard, and Timmy assures him that it's nothing. It's the wind. And because his parents are valedictorians, they fall for this idea. Timmy then rushes outside and asks why Sparky attacked Poof. Sparky said he didn't think it would be a bad thing to do. Timmy facepalms and decides, yeah, Sparky should be outside for the night. The next day, he goes outside and decides to play with Sparky, and Sparky seems like a great dog again. Until his parents show up, and Sparky poofs away because in my rewrite, Sparky has magic powers, like any other fairy. Timmy would then talk to his parents, who said that they were thinking about it and they want a new pet. They then hand Timmy a toy plush dog. Timmy decides to swallow his pride and accept this as if it was a real dog. His parents then leave, and he sees that it's raining and his parents are off, basically to go out. The raining and thunder sounds pretty important. So Timmy goes inside with his dog, and this time when they confront Poof, Sparky and Poof seem to be okay. And they don't fight this time. When Wanda asks why they fought earlier, Sparky says because he knows that Poof is a wrestling fan. He says that his favorite wrestler was the wrestler that Poof was booing, and decided to accept that challenge and play wrestle Poof. Now in the other scene, Poof was not hurt or crying, and that's the key to making this work. So Poof and Sparky never really had any problem. So they decide to have fun while they have the house to themselves. They play games, they eat food, they watch movies, they have a blast. There's even that old chemistry between this new dog and this older Timmy, similar to younger Timmy and his dog from before. So they make a fatal error, falling asleep on the couch together, while Cosmo and Wanda put Poof to sleep upstairs. They wake up to a rude awakening. His parents yelling at Timmy for getting a dog, and Sparky not being able to just poof away this time because that would give away that he's magic. So Timmy tries to hide him with a pillow or something, but they don't really buy it. So Timmy's parents go on a whole trust and disappointment speech. Timmy tries to defend himself, and they want Sparky out no matter how hard it's raining, because it rained through the night, you see. So to set up this moment, Timmy and Sparky walk outside together. Now here's the thing, Sparky could simply poof back inside when the Turners are not looking. I get that. And then case closed, right? But it isn't about hiding them for eternity. It's about showing his family that he can take care of this dog and keep it under control. With Cosmo and Wanda taking care of Poof all the time, he wants someone to talk to, someone to play with. have, someone to spend time with. He doesn't necessarily live the best life, you know? So he turns around and gives his parents a great big speech. He overheard them in the kitchen talking about disliking pets. But it wasn't always like that. When they didn't have time for Timmy, his pet was there for him and made him feel wanted. And he can take care of this new pet. He's sorry for hiding it, but he searched far and wide for a pet just like this, scouring through hundreds of pets all across the world. And he finally found the one that he wanted. He's only known Sparky for a short time, but he truly enjoys his company. If they can give him a chance, he can show them that Sparky is more than just a dumb dog. Sparky is Timmy's best friend. So his parents look at each other and say, okay, Sparky has to prove himself, but Timmy will be the owner and caregiver of this pet. Timmy's happy, Sparky's happy, and the rain clears up because atmosphere. So his parents go back inside and he poofs to his room, telling them that he has nothing to worry about anymore with Sparky. Everything is pretty much going to be a new start in season 9, and they end with Poof and Sparky wrestling again, and a bright future with this season premiere. Writing this was a bit of a challenge because I wanted it to seem a lot more grand. I could have added a side plot with some other characters, but I don't write for length. I think this story is a good foundation to add comedy on top of, and I also have full confidence that this is much better than what they originally gave us. But I really hope you enjoyed my rewrite because I'm one down, and as we get later into the month of June, one to go. Feel free to rip this story apart, tear it apart, criticize it, give positive feedback, all in the comments below. But also make sure to follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Discord. I'm pretty active on both, and those links are in the description below, where the link for requests is as well. If you really enjoyed this video, I have a ton of Fairy Oddparents related videos. The playlist will be up there, and I highly request that you start from the beginning, which was the Big Fairy Scare Share. Make sure to subscribe, and feel free to consider my Patreon. That would be much appreciated, and as always, I hope your time is well spent, and Alpha out.